We had a
I
lot.
commented you as the new owner has done a great job upgrading that place. And
cool. It's great.
And we're still missing half of your face. Will you speak to you a little bit?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a couple of things like closed and a couple of things open. So bear with me. I'll get it fixed.
get a good picture of his mug later.
Yeah. Trust me, it's me. It's not an imposter. That's better. I can close this now. This thing up in here. All right. And Biz, you sent me the stuff earlier today, right, for sewer and highway?
Mm-hmm.
I have building from before,
I
right?
didn't look at it, but I got it open up on behind my screen.
Yep, there's been no changes to building the all of Dave's stuff and the sewer you got. I don't think there were any changes to the water department from the last information, but you should have everything.
Anybody get a chance to look at Craig's liaison update? There was a lot of information there. I didn't get to finish reading it though.
Yeah, it's very good. Very
That gives you something to do. Gives you something to do later on tonight.
Yeah. No, you did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
It's very well done. Thank you very much for that, Craig.
Sure.
All right.
It was my experience taking notes while Julie was on sabbatical.
All right, where are these budgets? Budgets and self.
I didn't take any notes when I met with the Board of Health already as liaison, but I got some chicken scratch notes here to go over if we have time and you want to.
Huh? Joe and Dave had a lot to say, so I wrote it down.
John, do you want me to bring them up?
No, I got it all.
Okay.
All right, you guys should be able to see my agenda, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
All right, let's get started. If you want to hit record, that'd be great.
You guys are all set. I just remind everyone, if you're not speaking, to mute yourself. I hear some background noise coming from somewhere.
All right, welcome everyone to the February 24th, 21 meeting of the Finance Committee. This is John Humphrey, I'm the chairman. We have a quorum here this evening, and just a reminder to the audience that this meeting is broadcast live on, I believe it's YouTube and WRPS, or a combination of both. It's also meeting minutes will be available online, as well as in the at the office of the town hall clerk's office. Getting a lot of feedback today.
Yeah, what is that clicking noise? Is anybody else hearing it?
I hear it, but
Yes.
when I mute, I still hear it. So
Too, and it's echoey.
Craig, can you mute? If everybody mutes, maybe we can figure out where it's coming from. Yeah, it was Craig. Or someone else.
Yeah, because I didn't get to my mute button, so well, it's not me.
Well,
I
it's
guess
John.
John.
I muted myself. All right, so just real quick, I have my agenda shared here if everyone can see that. We should be going over the department budgets for water, sewer, highway, drains, tree department, parks, building. You will be joined by the different representatives from those departments. The lineup for this evening is going to be the building department to start off, then we're going to go with parks, then we're going to go with water, then sewer, highway, tree, drains. So with that, I will remind the presenters as we bring up your budgets. We would just ask, if you don't have a lot of movement in your budget, just kind of cover that as part of your presentation. Any lines in the budget that are moving significantly, if there's a legitimate reason, let's say, for example, I mean, they're all legitimate reasons, but if it's something that is unavoidable, for example, contractual increases in contracts, it could be a requirement of the state or the federal government that we have to do something. just kind of cover that as part of your presentation, so we can move through that quickly. We'll ask some questions on the operational budget, and then we'll move into anything that you have for articles or anything along those lines. We'll leave some time for Q&A along the way, like I said, and we'll handle any other topics that you have regarding to your department. But the goal is to try and move through these relatively swiftly, and cover any questions that we have that are pertinent to the financial impact of the town. So with that, Tom, are you ready for your budget? I'm just going to bring that up for you.
Yep, I'm all set.
Okay. So the building department one, I don't think had any changes to it from when you sent it to me, Biz.
You're on mute, Biz.
No, that is the same. No changes.
Okay. Just sharing the building department, if everybody can verify that they can see the building department budget.
Mhm.
Anybody? Okay. And Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, I have everything that I have so far. It seems to be working well for me. I'm not asking for anything. I would like to have everything the same. We are, running things a little bit differently because of what's been going on, but we've been managing okay, and I'm happy the way the budget is right now. So if there's anything that you want to talk and go over, now's the time to do it, I guess. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm all set.
So Tom, everything up here is contractual in terms of the salaries and things like that. Is that correct?
That's right.
Mhm.
Coming down to your supply line item, your auto allowance, things like that. Can you talk to us a little bit about typical supplies that you're going through? Things
Yes.
that you're doing. You said seminars, things like that.
Yeah, the supplies would be all the toners for the plotters, the copying machines. We have 3 copying machines down there. We have 1 large plotter that the toners and all the paperwork. That's not counting the small stuff, paper clips and pads of paper and calendars and all kinds of stuff. But that's on the supply. The auto allowance is something that I had done 14 years ago. I don't know if you can remember, but I had done the auto allowance. They wanted me to do it for 3 months. I did it for a complete year 14 years ago, and I was shy within $64, and I let it go. So that's the auto allowance. That covers me for all my inspections on the building end. Seminars is Symboa state seminars, which is monthly, and they run between $25 and $50 per seminar. Dues and meetings for all the organizations where I have to go to these seminars to keep up with my CEUs, and those cover my dues and meetings.
Has any of that changed with the pandemic, Tom? Is everything like virtual?
It's all like we are now, all Zoom. Haven't had a meeting since last March, but they've been all Zoom.
That hasn't changed any expenses on that area, right?
No.
I know the boarding up buildings, we had some money in there for a while, but then we moved that to a separate line, correct? That's a separate account.
Right.
That's a separate article. So that will come
Right.
off this budget line going forward.
Okay. No changes on the inspectors for gas and the expenses associated with them.
Yep, that's
Also no changes on the plumbing inspector as well.
right.
How are inspections in general? Are we up, down, left, right? Where are we?
I'm
Inspections?
about 60 down from last year at this time. And I can see that, but that's been going on, and that's been progressively getting better because a lot of people are staying home. So they're remodeling their homes. A lot of homeowners are pulling permits instead of contractors now because they're at home, they're doing the work themselves.
Right.
The plumbing gas inspector is doing his inspectors virtually. I'm going out in the field, and the electrical inspectors are going out in the field. The plumbing gas inspector has a few health issues, so he just as soon do his virtual, but we're going out in the field.
Is he able to do that effectively virtually?
Yeah, yeah. If he has any questions, he gives a phone call or he'll ask for some kind of improvement and they'll send him pictures or a video.
All right, if you look at your weights and measures, again, not much movement there. The 5,000 for the, are you technically the weights and measures inspector?
Yes.
All right, so that 5,000 is just a flat amount. It doesn't fluctuate. That's not, your contract doesn't call for any fluctuation in that.
No, I guess not. And that's the weights and measures with the marijuana dispensaries coming aboard. I've been getting more scales now, so that's gonna, the revenue that we bring in there is gonna increase a little bit because of these marijuana dispensaries with the scales.
Okay.
And the 150 on that, that's from the fuel on my truck that I use to do the weights and measures and the gas stations and the scales. And the supply is for all the stickers and the tags that I need to do weights and measures.
Okay. And no change in wire inspector, on-call coverage, et cetera, for these folks.
No, that's been fine. If we do have a tough winter, we'll ask for more, but the 3,000's been fine.
Okay. Any questions for Tom on the operational budget?
You scroll down a little bit, go back to the top for me. Okay, thank you. Okay.
All right. For articles, Tom, any articles that the building department is putting forward?
Nope, we don't have any on the building. We might have a few for zoning, but nothing for building.
And the ones for zoning will be, are they going to be typical with it? They're not financial?
No, nothing's financial.
Okay. Does the building department have any capital equipment? I mean, I know the some of your printers are pretty expensive, but do you guys have a vehicle, or you guys just all use your own?
Nope, we're all set. We do have one, Doug has an old cruiser there that we use if we need to. I more or less have to use my truck, especially for the gear for the weights and measures. But if that other vehicle is used for the local inspector, and any inspector or anybody that needs it uses that vehicle, that's at the town hall.
Okay. All right, so no articles. Any other questions for Tom on the building department? I actually do want to ask a question on revenue. So you mentioned inspections are down about 60 year over year, or, this time last year. You feel like, so revenue, do we have like an idea or a sense for how the revenue is going with the collections of fees and things like that?
Yeah, we have a child care program that's looking to start. We have another marijuana dispensary that's going to fire up. We have 240B projects going on, so I can see something coming up. Dyer Street, there's a project going on down on Dyer Street. We do have half a dozen projects that I can see coming up.
I didn't hear about the Dyer Street. Can you elaborate a little on that?
The Dyer Street yet is gone in council's hand. It hasn't reached me yet.
What are they actually doing down there?
They want to take and put a couple of retreat lots down there, and they want to do some businesses in the B1 zone with residential areas above street level. Just like the main street in town, the B1 zone. So they're going to be doing some businesses below street level and below street level, and residential areas above, like the B1 zone.
Have we had any, back, must be 4 years ago now, 3-4 years ago anyway, they put in that overlay with the 40R, I think it was.
Nothing.
Yeah, we haven't had any development out of that at all.
Not one.
Okay.
What is going in across from Commerce Street on Hingham Street?
Across from Lucas.
No, the same side of the street as Lucas.
That's the another marijuana, 1015.
A brand new building?
A third one? That's a third one?
Yep.
Wow,
They're popping up everywhere.
must be big money in it, huh?
Mhm.
They're building their own building from scratch on that lot.
On 1015, yes.
Wow.
Wow.
All right, well, Tom, I appreciate your time tonight. Appreciate you coming out, and I appreciate with the fact that the budget is, you're maintaining some level spending, which certainly is gonna help us with, the year that we are forecasting, so. Thanks for your time, I appreciate it. Do we have any final questions for Tom? Is he good?
Good to see you, Tom.
The same here.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you,
Tom.
Tom.
I thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
All right, next up is, Parks. And I think I have Parks open. There's Parks, okay. Do this. Share my screen, Park Department. Okay, can somebody confirm I can see that?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, good. All right, Peter, you
Hey,
open?
Mr. Furlong, I didn't, so is Peter not on?
Peter's here.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I'm
Pete,
on,
you can
Rick.
start.
Oh, you just don't want us to see it.
At least I could see you.
All right, who wants to run me through it? Run us through it.
Rich, you can start, Rich, if you want.
Yeah, because I can see it, you can't.
Right.
This is no change. This is what Biz sent us. This is, pretty much what we had sent her with her little increase there. And, everything's the same as last year, no increases as far as we go.
Okay, there's the part-timers. Can you guys tell me what's going on with that? Because it looks like you're at 4,020 under the revised budget for 21, and you're asking for 14,020 for FY22.
Right. If you go back and look in 2020, we were up to 15,680. That was where we took our cut last year, the COVID cut out of, because we didn't use it. It's part-time help that we use in the spring and fall to help get the fields ready for the seasons. So what we did is we took the 5,000 from the stadium maintenance and 5,000 from the rail trail and moved it into that account. So, we could have some part-time help to keep up with the field work.
So you're saying you took 10,000 out of other parts of your budget to
Yes.
go into that
Moved it into
part-time
that.
labor?
Right. Moved it into that line item.
Okay, all right, I'm sure we'll see that. I can see that, the stadium maintenance
Yep. And the rail trail.
and the rail trail, I can see it. Okay, all right. You've got a forecasted increase. Is that, do you have a formula where aren't these all just part-timers that get, minimum wage type of, school kid type of thing for, well, not school kid maybe, but
John,
really young adult for the summer?
John, I'd like Doug to speak to that if you don't mind.
Which, are we talking about the
Salary increase.
for which line though? The summer?
No, this,
140 for
I'm
part-timers.
I'm asking on the part-timers, is this really, those positions, aren't they all like minimum wage positions?
Right. Why did they increase?
no, there's no increase. There's
There's
no
no
increase. You missed
Oh,
it.
They got the 1% there, that's all.
Yeah, there's no increase in that line item. What happened was in 2020, we had 15,680 in that account.
Okay,
But last year with COVID,
Mhm.
we reduced it to help for a COVID cut.
Okay.
So this year, what I did is took the 5,000 from rail trail and 5,000 from stadium maintenance and put it into that account to help beef it up a little bit, so we'd have the extra help when needed.
right, and so, but my original question is that you just, not so much about the increase, but
Mhm.
you're the people that you're hiring into those roles, are they just like minimum wage, like
Yes,
young
yes,
adult kids that are just out there like raking leaves or whatever they're doing, you know what I mean?
yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
College kid.
All right, that's fine.
So I've got a
That-
question. So
Go ahead.
you've restored the money into that, but you've zeroed out stadium maintenance and you've zeroed out rail trail maintenance.
Mhm.
Is it realistic to think we will not have a dollar's worth of maintenance required on either of those facilities next year?
Well, rail trail maintenance is basically just cleaning up leaves and removing debris and stuff. We haven't done any actual maintenance, as far as repairing the walk and everything else. We haven't got involved in any of that. We've just been cleaning it and putting barrels out and stuff like that. That's what we used the money before, was for buying barrels to get out there for
Okay.
trash and stuff like that. And stadium maintenance, it's all brand new. We really haven't got a chance to use it yet, so I don't expect any big problems with that, with the stadium, for at least this year.
A lot of the stadium items are under warranty for another couple of years anyway.
Okay.
All right, come on, do it the same.
Well, the bottom line is level funded.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah, it's about, looks like it's about 1%, a little under.
Mhm.
All right, anything else under the parks?
How about articles?
Articles, the only one that, well, Pete can go on articles. Pete, I'll let you talk about articles.
Yeah, article wise, we did not submit any this year. One reason being because we know it's going to get a lot tougher fund wise. The other reason was the only biggest issue we had was an alarm system and getting the plumbing and the electrical finished in the garage. We've got an electrical company coming in pro bono to do the electrical. We just got to pay for the materials. Plumbing wise, it's the same thing. A local company is going to help us out. We buy the materials. And on the only other article that we had submitted last year, well, there was two of them, a mezzanine and the building across the street, a bicentennial walking track. And we're hoping we can maybe get a building built by a school shop to take care of that. And the mezzanine we can do without. That's not a priority. In the alarm system, we're gonna, at a minimum, get the garage. As we speak, it's being done. The garage will be done under our budget.
Okay. All right.
So who else had the students are giving you the labor for the plumbing?
But we're going to have to pay for the labor. But again, it was a short money item. It wasn't a big number. It's a local company. So we think we're going to be all right with that.
Okay. So equipment wise, Peter, you guys are in good shape?
We're real good. Like I said, that you guys, along with the town folk, approved that tractor for us last year. I can't tell you how much time and money that saved us. It's unbelievable. Having a 12-foot deck on a mower, it was even tough for me to swallow for that ticket we paid for that machine. But instead of 2 or 3 guys going, just for a scenario, down to Eston to cut it and taking 2 or 3 hours, one guy can do it in 45 minutes. And that's just a small piece of the time it's saving, not to mention we're only maintaining one machine. Truck wise, we got the 2 trucks the year before last, 2 new dump trucks. We're good that way. We're really in decent shape right now.
Okay. Anything, can you tell us anything about hot stuff? I know there's been some, I saw a survey out there with Jeannie talking about like, what are we doing? You know, what can we use it for? Trying to just gather some feedback. You know, I know you're involved over there with her and trying to keep the place up and build things up. Any thoughts over there? Anything that's coming up that's going to be needed?
There is, but we're hoping a lot of the issues are going to be resolved by CPA, which I'm also on that committee. We have a meeting tomorrow night. You know, we're still looking for, you know, we just had some architectural drawings done up, rough ones from a landscape architect. On the pros and cons, that's probably what you're talking about. What's been big lately in state parks, what hasn't worked. And so we're just at the beginning of that right now. We're looking at a couple of years out as far as that goes. But, I mean, the land's been acquired, so we're pushing forward right now.
Okay. All right, good stuff. I mean, yeah, I think that's a big a big thing. I was, one thing, the park that's over by CVS, I'm not even sure what the name of it is. I apologize. But the one that's right on the pond there.
Yeah,
That one always seems to be, it seems like it looks better maybe this year than before, but it seems like it's always in disrepair, like the wall over there, and there's like a little staircase that looks like it was there, 50 years ago, whatever it is.
That-
yeah.
It's a nice little park, but is the town doing anything to kind of spruce that up and make it, just
We
something
are.
nice so people can go have a lunch or something?
We are. Again, that's another CPA issue. Right now, we're waiting along with the help. Doug's been huge in helping us on this, trying to get the deed to it. Spring Lake Cemetery originally were the owners. They leased it to us for 99 years, but there's no paperwork to be found or anything. Hopefully through CPA funds, what we want to do is bring it back right to where it was, with the fountain, the wading pool out front, rebuild that whole stone wall. We've had the water tested. I'm looking forward to that place getting back to what it used to be.
Yeah.
Can I just add one
But
thing? to
again,
that, Don?
that's,
I'm sorry,
Sorry.
Peter, I cut you off. The only thing I want to highlight is, we've done a lot of work to get to this point. We've had a survey plan done and a wetlands delineation. We've had an appraisal done. And so we're also, the last step now is doing a title search. Because as Peter noted, we don't own it, right? So we will want to try to acquire it using CPA funds. So we'll likely have an article on the warrant at town meeting to buy it. But the title search is still going on. And I'm just, as Peter noted, there's not a lot of paperwork, including on the current owners and whether they have, because it's part of the cemetery. So I hope that it's going to have clean enough title that we'll be able to buy it at town meeting, and then most likely a future CPA article to, raise the funds to actually do the improvements. But there is a chance that if the title is just so muddy that we might not be able to acquire the land. So we'll see. We're just doing a two-pronged approach to keep it moving. Hope that makes sense.
No, it's good. Yeah. All right, good.
Doug, did we have an article go through for that already?
You haven't seen it yet. The CPA committee is in the process of working on it.
Oh, we already have the article to do the fountain and the wading pool, and that article's already.
No.
I know we have some articles.
We have to wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
Serious feedback.
Yeah, we got a lot of feet.
Pete, we haven't talked to Derek. There's no articles for CPA this year? Other than the one I just spoke of? Possibly?
They used all the money last year.
They're meeting tomorrow night to go over their articles. And from what Doug and I understand, they'll have their normal articles on there. There'll be a total of 3 from what we understand.
Because they haven't gone before the capital planning. I don't see them on the schedule to even appear before the capital planning. Doug went over some issues with us when he was at our last meeting.
Yeah, I think that's the only article, Joe, is the land acquisition at the pond. The only other thing that biz are talking about are the normal allocations of their funding. I don't think there's any other projects.
Correct.
I was just curious if anything that needed to be on the capital plan.
Well, can one of you let Doug know? I mean, for Derek, next week we got the CPA scheduled for our meeting. So if anybody talks to Derek tomorrow night, can they let him know?
Peter.
I'll be at the meeting tomorrow night, Bob, so I can give you the jingle tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow, but Friday. Let you know how that went. Like Doug said, that's the only one we're voting on is the purchase of Reed's Pond, as long as it ends up free and clear with no mud.
Right. I was gonna say if he wants to hook up with our meeting next week, to discuss anything, because we have him for our meeting next week.
Yeah, well, if he's on the agenda, I'm sure he'll be there.
Yeah. All right.
Last thing, Peter, I know that part of the whole renovation for the schools is to knock down Jefferson, put some more parks. There's a few other things that are park related that are certainly as part of that whole school project. Is everything that's needed to complete that built into the budget for the schools? The override that we did, to kind of provide the money to build the new elementary school. And I believe all the money was in there for the parks and everything as well. Is that accurate?
That
Yes.
wouldn't be under the purview. I'm picking it up, Peter. That's not under the purview of the Parks Department. That's based on the school building committee. So whatever is in their budget is what they need to do. So I would defer that question to the school building committee.
And I'm on the committee. I think what's in the budget is to demolish the schools because it's Memorial Park as well as Jefferson, and to kind of bring it to, loam it, seed it, but I don't think there's any money in for like structures or things like that. That's what I recall.
Okay. And I'm guessing there's probably no money in there for upkeep and maintenance. I don't know if it'll represent a net increase or have that kind of an impact, but.
Right.
All right. Good stuff. Peter, anything else to add for your group or Rich?
No, the only thing that I know with the school project is once the Memorial Park School comes down, the turf field will be built there. So that's all, as far as I know, in the school building plan. But Jefferson Schools is, like Doug said, just back to tear it down and loom it and seed it, and then it's on to us to do what we have to do from there.
Okay. All right, good stuff. I appreciate it. Any final questions for Parks for Peter and Rich? All right, Peter and Rich, thanks guys for joining us. We appreciate
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Yep.
it. Good night.
Chill. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich, Peter.
Thanks.
Now, Biz, this is the one where you gave me a refreshed budget, I think, on.
Is this Dave,
No,
the
we're gonna
highway
do-
and sewer?
No, we're gonna do water first. I'm sorry. Hang on.
Okay, that's fine.
I got Joe.
Water's pretty straightforward.
Don't give away all of the sizzle.
His articles are actually listed on our free cash capital request form
Right.
that we went over last week. There's only one change where Joe will have an additional sick time buyout.
Okay. All right. I have the spreadsheet up now. I'm just gonna share my screen. Water. All right, you guys can see my screen?
Yes.
All right, welcome Joe to the call. You want to walk us through what's going on?
Sure. Like you can see, we're level funded, same number as we had last year. A couple of reasons for that, like debt and interest went down. And also the percentage that Rockland pays for the joint water went down 1%. So the joint budget did go up, but it did not go up for Rockland. It went up $89,000 for Abington. The expenses that went up in the joint budget are contractual raises and benefits. And then just a couple line items went up in the joint. As far as Rockland, like I said, we're level funded. I try to move some money around, seeing where we need it. Now that I've been here a couple of years, we went up 50,000 on systems maintenance, which is all the work we do underground in the town of Rockland. The infrastructure, the pipes, all the water breaks and everything. Now that working with Dave Taylor, we've gone to anytime we dig a leak or anything in the street, we use flowable fill, which averages another $1,000 a dig. But we don't have to go back and replace, when things settle and stuff like that. It's a one-shot deal. So that's just going to add a little bit more to my systems maintenance. And we went up $25,000 on field support and overhead. That's the same thing. It's just going to assist us with the system maintenance. All the other ones.
What is What is field support and overhead, like specifically, is that?
Like if we have to bring somebody in, to help us, if it's something over our head or whatever, just general overhead, buying parts, buying, pipe, buying all different sorts of things.
Okay,
Um,
so it's more than just, it's more than a third party company.
Correct.
you're
If we have to
paying.
bring in like an outside contractor or something like that, it also buys parts and, asphalt and stuff. We pay for that. Anything to do with the vehicles, for the town of Rockland, the backhoe or whatever, that all comes out of that line item.
Okay. So yeah,
We've had quite a few main breaks recently.
You're not kidding. We were out all night last night.
Up in Concord Street, was it?
Concord
Yeah.
Street was a couple weeks ago, coldest night of the year. And then last night we're on Stanton Street. That went from about 7:30 last night to 7:30 this morning.
yeah, we heard you.
Sorry. But other than that, the only other thing that went up was the inter-fund transfer out, which is monies we basically.
Do you mind if I pitch in here, Joe?
Sure. Basically, I give that money to Biz.
It's the indirect charges. I'm sorry, there's a lot of feedback. It's the indirect charges where we pay for the administration fees, the town accountant's office, the treasurer's office, the collector's office. This is a standard business practice with this type of business. Also, Joe would have his retirement in there. His health insurance is in there. Is that where your health insurance is, Joe? I think.
No, everything, all that I think is in the joint.
Joint,
bid.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a schedule that we follow. So when we do their payroll, if they have a $2 million payroll, we charge them back for the Medicare charge,
Mhm.
things like that. It's standard overhead, and any additional insurances that aren't covered by them, that they fall under the town's jurisdiction for. So it's cost of doing business that they pay the town for.
Yep.
Okay, so that money, this bump from 124 to 143 represents net revenue that's coming back to the town for fees that the water department owes the town. Is that right?
Right. When you look at the summary reports that we should have out to sometime next week, it will show the indirect charges just like we did last year. In our other revenue sources, you have indirect charges. You'll have overlay if there's overlay, dog fund, things like that. So it's an additional funding source. It's actually just paying us back for what we supply.
So is it acting like a revolving account?
Oh, no. What it is this is called a special revenue fund. And we are segueing into an enterprise fund. The thought process is exactly the same, but we're just trying to make sure that we're doing this legally going forward. Because right now what we're doing theoretically at the end of each fiscal year, any money that is a net profit, so to speak, in the water department and the sewer department should be turned over to the general fund because that's how these special revenues are set up. So that's why we're segueing into an enterprise fund. So we follow the laws and do what we need to do. And inter-fund transfers out or indirect charges, that's standard with an enterprise fund. This is not new. It's been going on for years.
What is the commissioner's reserve?
Joe, you got it?
Yeah. That's just in case something comes up, an emergency that we don't have the money in the line item. If a pump or something goes in the treatment plant, that's voted out by the commissioners authorizing us to spend that. This is actually the first year we've put this in. Biz suggested we have a little bit of money in there. We did have a couple problems last year that it would have been helpful if we had this line item in there. Basically, that brought us back to being level funded.
An easy way to equate this for the finance committee is the general fund. You have the finance committee reserve. It is the same thing, but in this case, it's the commissioner reserve. So the commissioners can authorize the expenditure of that money and it gets transferred out just like a finance committee transfer.
All right. I guess I feel like I want to see, I'd like to see more detail on this one, which I think you talked about, you were going to provide some, Biz, so. 'Cause
Detail
it
on
looks,
what?
it looks like a lot of expenses coming down, and then we're shuffling it into boosting up some other areas.
Oh,
And I'm not sure I understand what the need is. I think some of it sounds like these are just prudent practices. So it's not like it's an unknown need. It's just it's again, they're having the reserve fund is there. We have a reserve fund in the finance committee that the water department can come to as well for.
No, they can't. The
It's
water
kind of an
department
odd
cannot
number.
go to the general fund reserve. That's strictly for the general fund. It's got nothing to do with the water or sewer. You cannot use that for those departments. The commissioners have to have their own reserve.
That comes out of the undesignated water fund, right?
Well, yeah, when we close out their year, if they don't spend it, it closed to what's called and will be called. Right now it's around designated fund balance, but in the future it will be their retained earnings.
Right.
So
It's such an
this
odd number
is-
though, that they came up with.
Well, we came up with that to balance the budget.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
That
that's
explains
why
it. Never
it's
mind.
38,169.
I get it.
So it
I
is an
get it.
odd number.
I get it.
You know, I could have gone ahead and boosted the indirect cost 145,000, but then that wouldn't be an accurate portrayal of what their costs would be. So I want to keep as much money in that fund that belongs in that fund and only take what the town is entitled to on the indirects.
Okay.
Thank you.
The office supplies item, line item, the office supplies item at 25,000, that's probably, of all the departments we've seen, it's probably one of the largest. Is that specific? Is it just because you have to pay for an additional mailings or what are we talking about?
Yeah, we have to mail out all the bills, all that. We have, office supplies. I have 3 different treatment plants, that we have to supply office supplies to. That covers the computers and, anything else we're using in the office.
That's a huge increase over the actual of last year. The actual last year is only 11,000.
On this budget, if I may, Joe,
Yep.
the water commissioners are allowed to set their own budget based on what they feel their needs are. So we take their information and that's how we work it because it's not a general fund budget. It's a separate budget. As far as when they go to close out, anything that they don't use will also go to their undesignated fund balance, etc. And this year coming up, after speaking with Joe, we'll be meeting with the sewer, water commissioners, I think in the next 2 weeks. They'll be setting up a stabilization fund so that they can start saving for future needs for when they have to go and do the assessments to build a new plant or if they have other things that break down. So that's pretty much how the commissioner accounts, I'm going to call them commissioner accounts for this purpose. That's how they work, is they set their own rates, they set their own income, and they can set their own expenses. Joe, is that correct?
Correct. And these are the amounts we usually have in all the line items. I went over the ones that we actually increased. And, we never meet those, but they're in there in case we do. And when we don't meet them, naturally that goes into our designated fund balance for the following year. And that's a lot what we take out of. The more money I can save during the year through this budget, the more articles I can take out the following year. And the more things I can pay out of the articles is gonna help us not raise the water rates.
And in the future, allow them to do their stabilization fund.
Correct.
Which is prudent business practice for them, just like it is the town.
Okay. Any further questions for the water department? for Joe.
John, can you scroll back down a little, look at the revenue? What was that, the revenue section up top?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Barter, all right.
For budgeting purposes, water rate revenues, they all go into one single line. Just for informational purposes, when we go to do our recap or look at our actuals, that's when I spread them out as to where the money came from.
There's not going to be another rate increase or anything, is there?
Not this year, nope.
Mhm.
All right.
Okay. Any final questions for water on their operational budget? And Joe, any articles for the water department?
We actually have 12 articles all coming out of undesignated fund. And, you can add one to that. Like Biz was saying, we have to petition at town meeting for the stabilization fund. So once that's voted at town meeting, we will come right back with another article at the same town meeting to put $100,000 in that account to get us started. Do you want me to go through all the articles for you?
No, I mean, all of those are coming out of your undesignated fund balance.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. And usually it's for like pumps and.
Correct. Actually,
this and
I did meet with the capital planning and we discussed me being here looking at, the infrastructure of our 3 treatment plants. The latest plant was built in 1974, so we're hitting 50 years old for every one of them. So the infrastructure inside these plants, we're trying to put $100,000 each year, what's a matching amount from Abington, so it'll be $200,000 a year for the next 5 years, just to see if we can upgrade everything, computerize everything, just the upgrades, the piping inside the plants, 16-inch discharge on Hingham Street plant is broken twice in the last 2 years. We finally had a temporary fix that cost us over $75,000. The permanent fix is probably going to cost us $200,000, which is in design now. I should have the money in these articles so we can at least get some of this done. The pumps, raw water pumps, we have 2 in each plant. They take the raw water from the reservoirs, they pump it into the filter system. Then we have finished water pumps, which pump out, naturally pump out the finished water to the system. Each plant, like I said, has 2 pumps, 2 finished water, 2 raw water pumps. It's about $50,000 to replace the pumps. These all have, we've been fixing them for 40 years. So we'd like to do, 1 in each plant each year. So after the 5 years, we'll all be brand new. So that's my goal, is to put any money I have, put a little bit in the reserve and see if we can get some of this infrastructure rebuilt so we don't have these problems.
Okay. Jeff
and I are in the capital planning committee.
Yep.
We were at the meeting with you the other night. You did a good job, and I think we got the plan updated sufficiently.
Okay. Can you send us like a summary, Joe, of all the articles that you have? I mean, I'm sure we'll get the detail.
Yeah, I told
new pump on the street or whatever it is for this dollar amount. That's the extent that we need.
Yeah, it's still a work in process. The current plan. Rich Harris is custodian of that, and I did mention him that you've been hounding me excessively to get a copy of that, and he had to send it to me.
Yeah, no, the capital plan's one thing, but from Joe specifically to just have Joe LaPointe, if you just have a 1-pager on the articles for the water department, which is just high level stuff. Again, new pump on this street at this this facility, this dollar amount.
Even though it's
John, I got a list. Yeah, I got a list of all the articles that I can forward out to the committee after the meeting. Yeah, that Joe forwarded to me. So.
Okay. Yep. All right, that's good. Because I mean, those articles, although obviously it's money that's being spent by the town, it is taxpayer money, or in this case, water rates, payer money that's funding it. There's not almost, I don't know anybody that's going to get up at town meeting and say we shouldn't put a new pump in a water supply system. But I think if we can, if we have questions, we'll forward those to you, Joe.
Absolutely.
Go from there. All right. Any final questions for Joe on the water department revenues articles?
John, you do have capital planning scheduled for the 10th of March? If I recall. I did mention that to Rich, and I think we're going to be able to make that. We'll be done with our scoring and everything. Meeting with all the departments.
All right. Yeah, Joe, your microphone for whatever reason is the one that seems to be giving the most feedback. But March 10th for capital plan. We'll put that in the calendar. All right, Joe, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. And now, Mr. Dave. How you doing, man?
Good, how are you? I still hear an echo here, and I'm muted.
Yeah. Okay. Highway, we want to make sure we get the right one, right? Highway's one of the new, is the new one you sent me, right, Biz?
Correct. I sent you the new highway, which shows the modifications that we talked about last week, the budget adjustments that Dave's aware of, and then the new sewer budget. And sewer budget is still under review. As we know, we're in the process of getting a new superintendent, so some of that may change. And then sewer articles also may change, depending on what happens after they hire superintendent. And Dave has worked very hard to provide the data and information. So thanks, Dave.
All right. Just give me 1 second here. I'm just got too many windows open here. I get lost. Sewer. Okay, we got, close this one. There we go. I believe this is the most updated one. Somebody can confirm they can see that.
Can you scroll up a little bit? All the way to the top?
That's it.
It should
Line
start
one.
with highway. Oh, okay,
Line
go
one is-
down to highway, which is 421.
Yeah,
Yes, that's the new one.
this is the new one.
Yep, that should be fine for this evening.
Oh, wait, that was a gone.
All righty. All right, Dave, you're up. Why don't we start with tree, just because it's at the top of my page, if that's okay with you?
Sure.
All right, welcome.
Well, everything over a tree is level funded. So no changes. Across the board.
Okay. So highway equipment, hired equipment for tree. That was, I know we were taking down some trees last year. Are we still, this 25,000, we still need to be at that level?
Yeah, we're still, I mean, the problem is we try to leave a little in there for the winter. Because usually the winter, when we've had some storms where we, if you have to subcontract out, that costs between $4,000 and $5,000 each time we contract out. So that literally allows us 4 times to do that, and then a little bit of a buffer. So,
okay. How are the trees doing over by the stadium?
Which ones? The pine trees?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think in 2018 we took around 40 to 50 out of that area. So that was all subcontracted out. So
are we replanting there at all, or?
We're gonna wait till the school project's completely done. We've been doing drainage grants, which we typically been going after between 20 and 25 shade trees and adding them during when we're doing road construction on replacing those back to a 2-to-1 ratio. So we usually have a few left over, and we'll probably will use it on the backside of the school project and around some of the schools and some of the open space that we have.
All right.
It's good. I
So-
know a lot of the people disappointed in a lot of those trees coming down. So it's good that you're gonna get. them
Yeah, it's
replaced.
definitely it's something that gets mentioned every town meeting. And but in any case, it's good to see that we've got a plan ahead for that, and excited to see what the school looks like when it's all done. It'll make a big difference.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to highway department.
Everything is pretty well level funded as well there. I know we made, you can see what is highlighted in the yellow area. So there was a decrease in that just to help out with the general fund.
Now, you've got a pretty good sized staff, Dave. One of the things I put out when I sent out some emails to folks was to say, talk to us about your staff and their needs and whether or not you have what you need to develop your staff, because, education, things like that. You don't have a ton here, and you've got dues and meetings at just $300, which on one hand I love to see, but at the same time, where are you at with your staff, and do you think you have what you need in your budget to be able to properly develop them?
Yes, so we have that under licensing. So there is some, there's a little bit of a buffer in the licensing, every year. And so what we do is we're trying to push our guys to get more licenses, because now it's not the way it used to be with the CDL and the hydraulic license. It used to be when I originally got mine, you had one hydraulic license and you could drive everything. Now there's between 6 and 8 different types of licenses that they need. So we try to get all our guys to get all those licenses, and it's slowly but surely, as the new guys are coming in, they're picking up more licenses. So the same thing with the pesticide license. We need to have the pesticide license town wise. It helps us on the tree side and also helps us with overgrowth through the town. So, but yeah, I know what you're saying as far as the education, and maybe that's something, we come back to at a later time. But I know the town is in a little bit of a query with the general budget in itself. So it was kind of a give and take on the materials and hired equipment, and also looking to get those articles that we wanted on the other end. So really, where we take out of materials and equipment, we roughly take between 150 and 200 to do road work every year. So if we're getting the road articles, it will offset that a little bit. Not to say that we can't use it, because we hammered our budget this year with road work, completing Union Street, Eastwater, Liberty, some of the other large projects. So we're limping into the end of the year this year, to say the least. So.
Okay. Just going through here again, everything's actually below level funded for the highway department. 1,038,280.
Right, and that's under the higher equipment that we made reference to. That's highlighted. Yeah.
That helps.
Any questions on highway or tree department in terms of the operational budget? Again, either little movement or some negative movement and some contractual increases on the salary side. Any questions?
No, it looks good, Dave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Snow and ice with the latest storm and things that we had recently. Biz, you had forecasted a number. I think it was around 4 and change that you presented to us last week. You still feel confident that we're going to fill in that, come in that range?
At this point in time, the information I gave you last week was that we're over budget by $265,000. That didn't include any work that was done over the weekend or this week. I'm happy we're getting to close to the end of February. We did allocate roughly $419,000. That's changing as we have to make adjustments 419,000 use at the town meeting for free cash allocation. So I'm still anticipating a $400,000 deficit.
Okay.
One of the things that we do have on the snow and ice, John, I think you did bring up the wrong one. Because the snow and ice, we're modifying that to be 200,000 instead of 150.
Hmm.
You know, if we don't have a positive free cash in the future, you're just kicking the can down the road, and you want to try and start increasing that a little bit.
Now, Biz, you just said we're gonna switch snow and ice to 200 grand a year.
Yes, sir.
Now, will that, you know how they say that we get reimbursed
We do
by
not.
the Commonwealth?
We do
That-
not get reimbursed.
Yeah,
Okay.
Only if it's a state of emergency, right?
Only in a declared state of emergency, which I think the most recent one for most localities was 2015, where it snowed forever and a day, and we ended up with 30 feet of snow. Plymouth County, I think 2018 had a snow disaster emergency, but that's only for that one particular snowstorm. You do not get reimbursed, and that has been, I think, a very big misnomer here in Rockland, is you
right,
thought you were getting
exactly. For
reimbursed.
years, they were saying that.
No, you do not. Sorry.
Okay.
So Biz, I just opened up the one you had before, so I don't know if I got a version right before it, but it didn't. It was still the
So
150.
150?
So
Okay.
it's 200 is what this should be.
Yes, that's changing to 200. Okay.
And actually, in all reality, to make reference to that too, and I know Biz and I talked, and I have, talked to Doug, and I think the board, the finance committee as well. So, I mean, before we even start the year off, if we started off at 150, essentially 50 of that is gone before we actually do any snow work. I mean,
Right, it
you have,
goes to maintenance, right?
yeah, well, you have the stipends.
Right.
You have the stipends on the highway side. We pay the stipends for the park guys. Some of the equipment maintenance, we have, 2 or 3 sander trucks that are just designated for snow and ice. And then also if we have to, stock up on either ice melt or salt. So we're starting, you're losing 50 right off the top. And that's not even making reference to, any new equipment if we needed a plow or a sander, which we try to, we try to rotate a plow or a sander in every year. So we're not getting hit with that latter part of down the road. So,
yeah.
So it's a smart move to increase that.
Yeah, well, maybe we should look to even increase it even more.
We want to increase it in increments as we can afford it. And once you put it into snow and ice, like let's say this year we're gonna, for our voted budget, we're gonna put in $400,000. Next year, we only want to put in 200. We can't. Your money has to stay the same. You cannot reduce it budget to budget. That's why most communities lowball the snow and ice budget, but you also have to account for what your true costs are.
Oh, okay.
So little increments going forward.
So Biz, have you ever done a study showing, what the actuals were going back?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's 400s, probably average or a little high this year compared to prior years for actuals.
I looked back. I think I took a 10-year look back.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
you're averaging about 400,000 a year in snow
So-
and ice. But
So we need
it's
to get up to
also,
like 350 or something, at least in increments.
I
going
would bring it
forward.
up 25,000 a year for the next couple of years and watch the history. I wouldn't go above 300,000.
In case there is a national,
A
emergency.
declaration, right?
Well,
But you also don't want to lock in revenue expenditure like that if you don't have to. So little increments is a smart way to do it. And then if we don't use it, this is something that we can transfer out at year-end transfers, or it can also close to the free cash allocations or the undesignated fund balance at the end of the year.
And if we go too high, we won't get a reimbursement if there is a.
No. No, you will still get a reimbursement if there's a declared emergency that goes
Right.
into a
But we only-
FEMA.
But we'd only get the reimbursement above what our budget is.
No, your reimbursement would be 75% of the declared emergency time frame. So let's
Okay.
say February
I thought it was-
15th, we had a blizzard. It lasted till February 17th. And the governor declared state of emergency from the 15th to the 17th. That time frame, those 2 days would be covered under declared emergency. We could file with FEMA and get up to a 75% reimbursement for
Oh, I-
only those days and that storm.
What we spent.
Oh, I thought there was a correlation to what our budget was, that
No,
if we couldn't get reimbursed more than what our
18.
budget was.
no,
I mean, anything over our budget that we
No.
spent. Okay,
no, it's per storm,
that's good.
per
I didn't
declared
know- I didn't know that.
emergency.
All right, well, I think the key is if, even if we over budgeted 1 year, as Biz said, it comes back to us at the end of the year where we can do some transfers once we get our free cash certified. Is that correct?
Yeah, you don't want to over budget it. You want to
Right.
keep it.
'cause
We
you
won't.
can't-
You won't let us.
Okay. Well,
right.
I don't think all of us will be here in like 10 years. You never know.
Nice.
It'd be
Yeah,
somebody
we-
else's problem.
There you go. All right,
I
so
Won't be me.
Me either.
stormwater, moving on to stormwater, we've got 150 in there, Dave. I know you've had a heck of a project here, and every year it seems like you make you make a little bit of an improvement towards where we need to be, but it also seems like we're still pretty far behind the 8 ball. What's the latest on stormwater drains?
Same thing. So we try to do the drainage, and we try to work with some of the other departments as far as underground infrastructure, to go along with what we have for upcoming road work. We spent a lot of money on drainage on Union Street, and then at Eastwater Liberty Street where we got the grant, we spent a tremendous amount of drainage down there, which we didn't expect. A lot of that. We did some camera work the year before, but we didn't have a ton of money left over, and we had to see what we were getting for the grant, and we were hoping we weren't going to have to use it this year, but the state told us we had to move forward with that project. So between Union Street and Eastwater Liberty, when you get into those big projects and you're investing that much money, you want to try to take care of as much of the infrastructure as you can. So, we burn through that every year. It's gone pretty quick. What we try to do is, the 50,000 of that is literally earmarked for engineering, for our MS4 permit to keep compliant. We try to take between 30 and 50 and do one large drainage project, and then 50,000 we try to do as maintenance. So we use that for backing, jetting all the lines. And since we started doing that 4 years ago, we noticed a decrease in all the flooding through all town, the whole town, mostly through the John Dunn Drive, Concord Street, Wyman's Field. That area was always prone to flooding, and since we started doing that, we've got more capacity in the pipes, more holding capacity, and we haven't run into major flooding issues since we started doing that. Knock on wood. So
we're slowly upgrading a lot of this infrastructure that's over 100 years old or 150 years old.
Yeah,
And
we're seeing
pipes.
Yeah, we're seeing it on drainage. So if you're seeing it on drain pipes, those drain pumps run parallel with the sewer pipes. So those sewer pipes are doing the same thing. The drain pipes are all installed at the same time, unless there was some large project to upgrade those. So you're seeing a lot of the infrastructure. You're seeing it now from the water department on the amount of leaks we had this winter, and we didn't have a deep frost. We didn't have anything over 4 or 5 inches thick for a frost, and we've had more, water leaks than I've seen since I've been here. So it's just telling you there's things to come, and it's not just our town. Talking to other directors, and everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's 40 or 50 years behind because we were just waiting for things to blow out, and it's starting to now. So we're trying to do the right thing by any major projects, trying to do the drainage. So if people see us doing drainage on the street, usually means that road's getting done over in the next 1 or 2 years. So obviously we want to see at some point, I know we talked, that originally started out at 50,000, we bumped it up to 150. So eventually, you know, we'd like to see that its own department, maybe man that at some point, or maybe split a man from, you know, from that department over to another and split that guy. I don't know if that's worthy of seeing, because we could teach somebody to do a lot of the head wall testing. That would save us a lot of the, we could probably lose $10,000 a year off of engineering if we did some of the testing ourselves. So, I would love to do it. I started doing it, but literally there's not enough time in the day for me to do all that. So, so that's where we are with drainage. So.
So, I mean, bigger scope, we've got these projects that are being presented. We've got, everything going over at Union Point. Yeah, we gonna have, I mean, the conversation seems to come back to every year. Do we have the capacity to handle all these things? I know you've been helping out with the sewer department. Do we have the capability to do these things that are coming up, or are we gonna have to make some major changes to do it?
Yeah, that's a good question, John. So, I mean, let's take the school project, for example. So I've been working with we've just finished up the engineering as far as the school project before it went out to bid at the end of January. So, we're dealing with the engineers over there on the drainage aspect and also the sewer aspect. So the drainage over there will actually be better off in that area with the drainage, because they started off with three subsurface areas, everything underneath the ground, which run infiltrators, hold the capacity from the school. We ended up with 5, and then 2 open drainage areas. We also made them add along the area of Duffy Way, where those areas have been prone to flooding. So we made them add a perimeter drain there along with the new proposed wall is. And we also made them add clean out areas so the people could actually install their sump pumps instead of pumping out onto the road. That will go into that drainage as well. So you can reach out to those developers where there's areas that need the help, and make them do it. The school project, once that's done, there's a ton of hardscape from a school project, obviously, because of the scope and the hardscape of all the parking areas, and that water needs to go. The added water needs to go somewhere. So they've overcompensated for that for 100-year, 200-year storm is what we make them do, the capabilities. So, that culvert that runs over there was a 4-foot culvert that comes across Lower Reed. We made them bump that to a 5-foot culvert because that gets a tremendous amount of water, and then adding that drain to it. The same thing over that project on Shingle Mill when they came in. We want to make sure, the people around them, are safe, with the drainage. There's a drainage area over there on the back of, Wright Road that, that's a tough area. So we made them add a culvert going under the road, and we want to make them put an addendum in there, saying it's not just for this year. There's some money in the pot just in case there's an issue down the road, for those roads. So yeah, you got to go after, I know people are against development, but it's got to be smart development, and we got to go after the developers to help us out on a lot of our infrastructure needs, because that could, go along with some of our projects, over in that area. So that's pretty much it.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions for Dave on highway department, tree department, snow and ice, stormwater on the operational budgets?
No.
Okay.
Oh, looks good.
And Dave, I think you're also handling sewer, right?
I am.
Let me bring up sewer here. Hang on.
Got your hands full.
Yeah. Another month. Although I've been saying that since January.
Okay, you guys should be able to see the sewer operational budget. Just because I made it. Hang on. All right, Dave. So,
This should actually be easier than highway. So everything is level funded over there. We kept everything. I mean, where are we at? Superintendent salary is still going to stay the same. That could actually change, but I'm assuming not. That was what John left with. That was his ending salary. So I'm assuming
Right.
They're not gonna hire somebody over that amount, but I could assume all I want. I could be wrong on that. But really no changes to that at all. Am I correct in saying that, Biz? I know we went over that. So,
Yes, that's the objective right now. The only thing that you will see, Dave, that I did add is the assistance pay, your assistant.
right,
I had to put in for that 1%. It wasn't included in the information that we had already gone over.
okay,
So
right,
I just wanted to make sure that that was in there. So that was a slight increase. The only other thing that changed here was that you had requested lawn maintenance and landscaping, building maintenance and landscaping to be part of your undesignated fund capital request.
right,
And I did move that into a budgetary request instead.
okay,
It doesn't make sense to have a $38,000 landscape. This will be in your budget and you can maintain those areas going forward. And then, let's see, John, can you scroll? Your emergency fund is at the $45,000. I believe you had originally had in for 50. And other than that, those are the only things I changed. So I kind of changed a couple of things to make sure
yeah,
the repair maintenance was there.
yeah. So
And
that,
this is subject to the commissioners as well as we go forward, correct?
right, yeah. So the
Okay.
building maintenance and landscape was previously going to be an article to try to get caught up on some of the overgrowth at some of our substations out in the field. So, and Elizabeth and Doug came up with the idea of actually just adding it in. So maybe that's something we could keep up with and be proactive on it moving forward, as opposed to coming out of our regular repair and maintenance, which is getting hammered down there as well. So
this account's been running actual at 132. See, we had 140 in there, but you're requesting 178.5, and that's to cover some of this landscaping. But are those needs going to exist year over year?
well, this year here is going to be a big year. So, we've got some prices and some quotes on it, to get it caught up. So, I mean, it might be something that they might want to keep in, but I don't think it's going to be as large as that every year. It could probably be something where they designate a certain amount of funds just to keep up with it. So it's not that it's completely let go. The problem is if you have a bad storm, there's the trees that are close to it will fall on, one of the pump stations, and then you're dealing with it. I think, we don't have the, the manpower down there to shoot out temporary pumps. I mean, I think it's just being proactive to try to keep these substations free of any debris or overgrowth will become an issue down the road. So it needs like a serious cutback. That's at the plant too, going around. So they've been maintaining it, but it needs to be chopped back. So to answer your question, I believe, down the road that will, it'll be a smaller amount, to keep up with it. So.
Yeah, I mean, it feels to me like it might be better suited to be an article and then get a handle on what the yearly maintenance is and then build it into your operational budget incrementally so that we get, the first year we have an article, we go in there and make a big improvement. The next year, we have $5,000 in maintenance and then we bump the 140 to 145. Because if you're running, that might be a better way to handle it. Leery to put stuff into operational budget that doesn't represent like true, yearly expenses. I agree having things in the budget that run, having enough to cover what you need and then given enough cushion to cover you in case you need more. But, that's a pretty big cushion. That's a 20% plus cushion to that particular budget.
Well,
so,
the other thing on that, John, too, is so with the new superintendent, so the old superintendent used to have some of the Suez guys, do some of the work. It is
right.
not in Suez. It's not in Suez's contract to do that work. So if you get the new superintendent can come in, and Suez could push back and say, we don't want to do that. That will have to be that work, the general maintenance on on this stuff will have to be subbed out. So
Okay.
that's, you know, again, I'm trying to be proactive. I don't think, you know, if you're at 38 now, I don't see it going down to 10. Do you know what I mean? Like you have the plant and there's 11 injector substations and there's 2 injector stations. And then that's not including future development. If those stations, like if Shingle Mill gets approved, there'll be more added on to that substation. So it'll be bigger. And that's not to say that's not going to happen down the road with like Union Point, or even like if we have that project on A.W. Perry, you would be adding that. So I don't think it's a far cry from that. I don't think it's going to be a lot less, but it is something that's coming out of repair and maintenance, which in repair and maintenance in all reality should be going to like the, you know, the pumps if we have to repair a pump. And that's what you're going to see over the next 5 years, because there's no, you know, I'm being a realist that we're not looking at that new plant for 5 to 7 years down the road. So we need to legitimately put those repair and maintenance into repair and maintenance and not be, you know, doing that under landscape or building maintenance. So this is something down the road that there will be a need there to increase that, because just what I've seen us spending this year on pumps going, you know, that's going to be an ongoing issue down at that plant. You know, everybody knows that plant's over 50 years old, and it's you know, it's 20 years past its expectancy. So we're going to have to limp that along for at least 5 to 7 years. And I'm being a realist. I mean, people could think you're getting that sooner than that. There's no way. The plant is in, you know, decent shape, and it just needs to, you know, we just need to keep up with the maintenance for the next 5 to 7 years. So I know what you're saying about the article, but I believe this is something you're going to need to, you know, carry on in that for a while to help out. So you're not pulling that out of that repair and maintenance, not to be redundant, but that's reality.
Okay. Any other questions on, I'm trying to look through here. We, looks like sundries.
Sundries went way up, and so did insurance premiums went up 10,000.
Yeah. Well, this column E here is
actual.
Reflects actual by 20. We don't have the actual for FY21, and then we have a requested for FY22. The actuals on these are running, you know, 2.14 was, or 2.342 was actual, 2.662 is being, was what was in the FY21 budget, and we're recommending 2.663. So the net, if I'm reading this right, and Bismarck, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if our actuals are 2.342, and FY21 we requested 2.662, we basically requested, you know, 300,000 more than the account spent the previous year. And of course, some of that includes contractual increases, but that's the net of what happened.
What you want to look at is what was budgeted for FY20 to FY21 to now FY22. You also have to remember that during this time frame in FY20, we were no longer with John. Robin was maintaining everything she could until Dave stepped in to help out. So a lot of items that we would normally spend during that time frame, we didn't, because we had, you know, issues, COVID and John being out and things like that. As far as the budgets are concerned, they're very consistent with their budgets. And again, anything that goes into this budget and the articles going forward, we have proposed, and this will be going to the sewer commissioners, the same thing with the water enterprise fund to be with the sewer fund as well. We are recommending that it go to an enterprise fund, self-sufficient, same thought process with water, and they can start building some of their reserves. The amount of money that they had, net profit, so to speak, is not a lot of money for what they need to do. And if you think about it, they put in roughly $500,000 worth of articles for this coming year for 22, but they only brought in a net profit of 269. So these are the types of things that, I can't just look at the moment in time. I have to look at the future and the past when we're doing this. I have not had the luxury of meeting with the sewer commissioners yet. I don't think I've met any of them, to be perfectly honest, because John dealt with a lot of this stuff. Dave's doing the best he can. And like I said earlier, some of this is subject to change. They will have a new sewer superintendent in. And these figures all have to be finalized with the sewer commissioners. But I feel as though Dave did an excellent job presenting what he needed to present. Contract operations, they're just that. You'll see it's got an increase, but that's via contract. So there's certain things we just can't change. And the inflow and infiltration, last year they had money left over, so we just carried that. This year it's going in as a new article at 100,000.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not trying to give any opinion on whether or not I agree with what it is or not. I like having the fact that this information is available and that, we just have it. It's very transparent, which I think is fantastic. That's exactly the way we should be. And then it's available for consumption. There is a need in every budget. I fully agree with that, for there to be enough flexibility within that budget to handle, overages. And to your point, you can have an off year and not spend a lot of money. And then, like Dave was saying earlier, you can have major water leaks that happen, 3 or 4 times in a month that you haven't seen in years.
Right.
So I understand that there's going to be, we have to plan ahead for that, and we have to have the money available in the budget because, especially nowadays, if we didn't have enough money in this budget to cover that, we wouldn't have many places to turn without having like a special town meeting to find the funds. So
there'd be no funding to go to. And so that you're aware of any of these accounts that go into deficit, they do impact our tax rate recap and our free cash allocation, our free cash certification. So it's prudent to be able to have them be solvent,
Understood. I think it helps having this information out there to kind of to discuss. Now, this inflow and infiltration for 56,000 was the recommended, but then the requested is 0. Is that correct?
No, last year in 21, we only recommended 56,000 because they did have leftover money from the prior year. So they were fully funded at 100,000, but they had an encumbrance where we had saved money. So inflow and infiltration going forward will be back into a special article until we find a way to build it straight into their budget. That's a future issue that will need to be addressed. So overall, it went out very little money. Maybe I'm trying to read the lines, maybe 52,000 over prior year. That's a very minor budget increase if I'm reading it right.
Do budgets ever go down?
Do budgets ever go down? Well, you put your budgets down, you can set yourself up for a negative connotation in the future. Oh, yay, we had a great year, so I'm going to drop the budget. So you have to drop the revenue, and then it takes you years to get back to where you need to go. So you just like every other business, you have to plan for the future. And you need to see a little bit of, profit or operating funds for the go forward.
Okay. Does the sewer department have, I'm trying to look for long-term debt.
They have one long-term debt. If you go down a little bit, actually, their debt and interest, 17,000.
Yep.
Right. They have very little debt. But as we know, that may change in the future. So we have to
Yes.
start planning for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Dave, what about articles?
So there's going to be an article for inflow and infiltration, which Biz made reference to. That's going to be an ongoing, obviously, issue where we're talking capacity all the time with new development, and that will help us. That's what John used to do for like smoke testing, camera work, to get some of that capacity back. So that's something the town's going to need to just start doing, even maintenance wise. And then, so we put in for another 100 there, and there's some leftover article, which I'm trying to leave the new superintendent with a little bit, so he has something to start right off with, because that's obviously, we did a lot of structure work this year, because that's something, I'm acclimated to. But, smoke testing and camera work, I wasn't ready to take that on. And then that will also help us. We have that AECom, $300,000 article that was voted in last year. I have a meeting with them Friday, and they're actually going to start the smoke testing, camera work. That all starts next week. Well, the high flow. So that will, once they start those areas, and we're starting them over where most of the development's going to be over on, Pond Street, that area. We're starting over there, Hingham Street. So those are the areas we're gonna start with first on that engineering, and that should help us, work with the developers over in that area and what actually the areas that they need to rectify for the town. But inflow and infiltration, to get back to that, that's going to be an ongoing thing every year. And then the other one was the pump and repair maintenance, which is Biz can, she sees all the bills coming in from the pumps. There's pumps at every station, and every one of those pumps is ready. You're going to have one go every year at one of those stations. And we're looking at infrastructure that's older. That's not even including what's happening at our plant. We just got the digester boiler pump fixed. That's $38,000 for one pump. So obviously that's something that the town's going to need to probably do every year. You know what I mean? Whether it's an article or somehow I think it's smarter to do as an article, so the town sees that that's directly what we're using that for. Again, we're going to have to try to get the life expectancy out of this plant in those a little longer. So that would be one of those articles that you probably want to carry forward. And then again, we did add that landscape into the budget, which I think is going to be smart down the road. And then the other article was to correlate with what we just got done with Wright Pierce on the plant study. So what we're looking to do is, I know we don't have $1 million to do a plant design, because in all reality, we're not ready for it. So we reached out to the engineering company, and now, what's the next phase that we can realistically afford? So we have maybe 5 sub phases. So when we get to that point where we're ready for the design, it's not going to cost us as much. We'll have, half or 3/4 of the engineering, and then all we'll have to do is the actual design of the plant. And then that's something, we put in for 300, and then I just got the prices today from Wright Pierce. So it's actually going to be less. I know I just threw that number out there, to hyperbole it, that it's coming. And then, it's going to be about $100,000 less. So, which I just wanted it in play for the new superintendent. So at least he has something in play when he gets here, and then he has something to work with. And we're not leaving him, well, you just got done with this Wright Pierce evaluation. Where we go from here? I don't have the money. So at least it's also helping us with the EPA and the DEP to keep us in compliance, because they see us moving forward with the plant, and now we're trying to rectify the situation. So that's a big article, but it's also something, the town's going to need to keep moving forward with for the next 5 years. So we don't get hit with $1 million. We're getting hit with maybe 200 each year, and we're spreading it out, which I find, with everybody up, with Biz and Doug and everybody else up there, that's the way to go right now. We're trying to phase into things for these big capital improvements, and it's smart. It's not hitting us at one time. So I'm trying to spread it out. So those were the 3 articles that we were looking to do. You
So
guys know
3
better than to
articles.
get me going.
So Dave, 3 articles, inflow infiltration, 100,000, digester boiler,
Well, that
100,000.
would be, the pump, it's just under generalization. I have it under pump and repair and maintenance. So that covers us under any pump that goes on out in the field, or whether it's out in the field or at our plant, you know?
Okay, so pump and repair maintenance, 100,000. And what's the third one?
The third one would be for the right Pierce to move into the second phase of our engineering on the plant.
So that's engineering for 100K. Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna probably
And-
be around 200. So we put it in for 3, but in all reality, it's gonna probably be 2 and some change.
We're also proposing, John, for the sewer commissioners, and Dave or the new superintendent, a stabilization fund that we have an article pending for 100,000. And like I said earlier, all these have to go to the commissioners through Dave for review and approval.
Correct.
And this is all coming from their undesignated fund balance. Next year it will be retained earnings if they vote the enterprise fund.
Yeah. And in all reality, fees, I mean, the fees are gonna go up this year on the sewer fees, because it's something that hasn't gone up in years, and it's something that the sewer department's gonna need to move forward for some of these repair and the pumps and the engineering, and then eventually we can get line items for these to move forward, you know, working off of the receipts, so.
Okay. I mean, I think that if the fees are going, if the idea with the fees going up is to pay for the long-term capital improvements, I know I'd like to see, just as a resident, I'd love to see or have something provided, or I'm sure in advance of the town warrant, we're going to have, you know, some conversation about that, but it would be nice to have some information on, hey, we're going to raise the fees, which is going to generate this much revenue, and here's where that revenue is going. It's going to go into our fund that's going to eventually fund all of these major purchases that we have coming up, so that there's a paper trail, that it's not just like, you know, not just for something else that, you know, the townspeople can't like kind of wrap their arms around and say, all right, that makes sense, you know.
Are you kind of saying he might need to be prepared to speak at town meeting and on this, just to give them a comfort level to the residents?
Any proposed rate increases will not be proposed for fiscal year 22. Okay, that's down the road. That's not this fiscal year, unless we get to mid-year and feel as though we have to address it. So that is not fiscal 22. That may potentially be fiscal 23. This is something that we try to address with John Laughlin, but going forward, it will need to be addressed, but not today, and not for fiscal year 22.
Thank you.
We didn't cover anything on articles for the highway department or trees. Was there any articles you had for them?
Yeah, geez, you got me off track there. I was all ready to go. You got them in front of you, Elizabeth?
Well, I have them in my mind. It's kind of close enough.
Yeah.
We have the
Red,
Beach
you can
Street.
remember Bears, because I'm trying to remember what we went over with capital planning.
I do this all day long. We have
Elizabeth.
180,000 for Pine Haven and Gardner. We have a 3-phase project for Beach Street, Summer Street, and curbing and walks at 3-phase, 200,000 a year. And we have a dump truck also, and kind of under the purview of the highway, but also the Board of Health, is phase 2 of the road going into the recycling center. I think that covers all of yours, Dave.
That is it. That's correct. Any questions on any of those, or?
There's nothing else that we touched on tonight that we didn't go over in capital planning?
No, that's everything that I had on for capital planning.
I don't have my notes in front of me or the capital plan in front of me, but.
Yeah, and I think we touched base on the, so obviously the truck, that was something we had on last year.
I remember.
That got knocked off. And then also the Gardner Pine Haven, that was an article we had on last year that got knocked off, but we had to increase it obviously with the.
It actually went up a little bit, yeah. More work than you anticipated, yeah.
Yeah, there's gonna be drainage over there too that we're gonna have to take care of over on Pine Haven as well, so. And then we have the 3 phases on the Spring Street, Summer Street, Beach Street project, which we're working with National Grid, where we'll probably have that finalized within the next week or so on the numbers, and that's something where they want to replace all the gas lines, the main lines on that street, and then they'll cut us a check to refurbish the street completely over. So that would be from Spring Street, the intersection of Summer, which is prone to leaks, and then that's going up to Beach Street up to Industrial Way.
So the
that
whole,
would be
the project comes in, National Grid or whatever the vendor is wants to pay to dig up the street, and they'll pay to repave it. But while
Right.
we're in there, that's where we need money from an article to do infrastructure work, to prove things that are that are our requirement, right? In other words, National Grid and their companies, they're not paying to upgrade our infrastructure. They're paying to dig the hole and repave it, right?
correct. So it's kind of like we wheel and deal with them. We just did the same thing this year with Moncrief and Levin Road. So we're ending up with a bigger check so I can get all of Moncrief done. So you know what I mean? So then we know what they pay their subcontractor to do half the street. So we're like, you know what, just cut us a check. And then you kind of wheel and do, well, how many services are there? Well, how many times you have to cross the walkway? So we can get a tonnage, and we go back and forth, and then eventually, because they want to start. They have crews just waiting for work, and we kind of go back and forth, and then eventually they're like, okay, yeah, we'll agree to it. So, but I reached out to just to make sure if we could even make this happen in the phases, because I got to explain it to the residents. Why are we cutting into Spring Street? That's only, an 8-year-old road. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And then that's the reason we want to replace the curbs and the sidewalks at the same time. And that we're going to get the new road, because all the paving is going to get is going to be paid for. So we don't want to leave those old curbs and walkways in. I mean, that's we've been trying to eliminate that. And it's on 5 and 10 year plan to replace curb and walkways on all these main roads, and we're trying to make it work where we're doing the infrastructure down below at the same time. If National Grid wants to take a big project like that and cut us a check for $300,000, if we can do the phases, then this year we'll do phase 1, curbing and walks on Spring, and then once they're done, we'll pave, and then do Summer Street, the intersection, and those walks are good. That was from an old grant, and then next year we'll pave Beach, and then with their National Grid's funds, and then we'll do the curbing and sidewalks up there.
How old's the sewer infrastructure and water infrastructure up there? Is that something?
It's old, and I mean, unless you can come up with some sort of money to give Joe and to give sewer, those aren't going to get changed. There's just nothing.
So we're going to redo the roads over the old pipes.
Right, and you have, in all reality,
it'd be nice to be able to replace them, but
it would. But do we have $1 million to do the sewer and $1 million to do the water?
I don't know what the cost would be, but that's kind of high. So yeah, it's a little too high. It's a little too high to anticipate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about $1,000 a foot for each, and I'm just ballparking that. You know what I mean? So
it's a shame we don't have the road open to do it, but
right. But if, like, let's just say you have that money coming in from one of those developments, like you say, you get that shingle mill in, you know what I mean, and that's $1.7 million in I work. You can line all those pipes, all those sewer pipes, which John did when we did Crescent, Vernon, and George. If anybody can remember, that was given to me, that those streets were done before I got on, but then the water department came in and did the water mains over and dug the streets up. And we made water do the streets over as part of the project when I came on. And then John lined all the sewer pipes on all those streets. And it falls under I&I. So you can do that. You know what I mean? And then we do try to do it like when we did Union Street. If any of the services or the hydrants had to be updated, water did those. And then highway, provided the structures and the parts, but water did the work. So we try to do a lot of that, the things that we know that are prone, like a gate might break or a service might break. And then we work with water to do that, and we work with sewer to do that. So, you make a valid point there, Joe. So that would probably be something if we did get that money, maybe we work that in with a new superintendent over at sewer. This would be a great spot to do the lining of the pipes, and you get that I&I work back, you get the credits for that. And then, we move forward, doing that. So, again, and then, we try to do that with National Grid. We have a good rapport with National Grid, and we're about 70% of plastic in town, which is tremendous. You guys can see we've been doing a lot of main replacement in the last 5 years, and it corresponds with our road work. So if you see them doing the main replacement this year, it means we're paving it next year, and that's with National Grid funds. So again, we're trying to phase. We were talking about phasing in, so we'll phase in that as we go along. So
Dave, do you have a hit list of here are the intersections, kind of priority? Here's what needs to be done first, last, whatever it is.
I do, and
top 10 or whatever it is.
I do. So I have, and I did talk to our liaison Craig about that. We'll be, I'll be getting that over to him. I did an original 5-year plan, which we're just completing, which started over by the schools. If you remember, I talked about doing everything over by the school. So we held off on our chapter 90 to get that done the following year in 2017, which we completed. We were able to do that. And I think that is a big plus for the town, the curbing and the sidewalks over there. But, we can't just hammer the chapter 90 for curb and sidewalks. And if you take a road like North Ave, that's a $1 million curb and sidewalk project just on North Ave. Plain Street's 500,000. Going up Beach, it's just, and we can't go. What am I going to do? Go to the town and say, guess what? I'd like to do $5 million in curb and sidewalks, for the next, 6 years. It's just, it's not in the books. I mean, we get
all I was looking for, Dave, is if you have a top 10.
Yeah.
And I think anything, once you get beyond the top 10, you start getting into, stuff that, you might be 5 years out or whatever it is. But if you have a top 10 that
I do,
those are on the capital plan. And even if the numbers, the ballpark numbers are, kind of a shot in the dark, at least there's a, we can kind of see, no pun intended, we can sort of see the road ahead when we look at the capital plan in terms of where you're thinking. Because I've seen capital plans before, and I know that, Rich did a lot of work on that, here are all the projects, and then by year, they're kind of X'd off in terms of like where we think they're going to fall in the capital plan, like what year you think they might get done.
Right.
So that we can kind of see that look ahead. I think that really helps the finance committee when we see that, because it helps us ask better questions. You know what I mean? Hey, there's a project coming up next year. We've got some extra money this year. What about pulling in one of these?
Right.
So and now those are things that I know you guys are going back and forth with that too, but it's helpful for us to see it. So
yeah, I will forward those, because we were trying to, between a combo, I know we talked about getting our budget up to 500,000 eventually, and I know that's been stifled the last 2 years. But then we could, you would really be able to use like 200 of that money towards one of that, and then combine it with an article. Obviously we could get a ton done with that, with a combo of chapter 90. I mean, realistically, we need to have about $1 million in hand every year to do road work, or we're going to be behind. And then in another 8 to 10 years, we're going to be going back to the kitty and saying, guess what? We need another $6 million because we didn't get all those roads done when we should have before they've fallen off. But we're in a really good spot right now. So now, like I said, we're trying to, work in some of the curb and the sidewalks and some of the projects that are coming up. Even the developers now in town, we make them do the curb and sidewalks, even if they don't go to anywhere. It's just so there's some future connectivity. But I will get that 5 and 10 year plan over to you guys so you can see what we have in the midst. That Spring Street and Beach Street, that was not until the third year, but National Grid approached us on this project, and then it got moved up. So
yep, that makes sense.
Happened this year, Dave. You're up in my neighborhood now.
What is that?
I'm up off of Industrial Road in Beechwood Village, so you're gonna be stopping right at the end of my street.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
on
so
Little
that-
Crescent. I've been waiting for it to get done for a long time.
Yeah, that's a long way away, Joe, to be real.
Oh, I know. They
Yeah.
get up close to the school, but I'm on the other side of Howard, so
Yeah.
mine didn't get done.
And the only way that got done is we did a drainage project.
Yeah.
And we pushed the pipe from the road under the sidewalk so we could get the sidewalks done.
Get all the way, yeah,
That-
the intersection of Howard and Crescent, all the way up to that. You stopped.
Yep, that's it.
So
Yeah,
when-
Miles is away.
I'm on Reed, they didn't do Reed sidewalks.
Yeah.
So Dave, do you think they'll start on Spring and Beach Hill this summer?
If as long as as long as we're all set and it looks like we're gonna be all right on that first phase, what we'll end up doing is where it's in phases, we would do probably Spring Street this year. And then that would be paved this year and the curb and the sidewalks this year. And then phase 2 would be next year where we would hold off and then we would do the curb and the sidewalks on Beach. And keep in mind, there's curbing up on Beach. So we plan on stealing that curbing and repurposing it on Beach and then just adding probably a third of that. So that's why that's actually considerably low for 3 phases, but we have some of the curbing on Beach.
Okay.
So, yeah. So that's going to be a few phases to get that done.
Dave, Gardner and Pine Haven, was that on the original road debt exclusion? Was that on there? You know?
No, it wasn't. The only road we have left is Forest Street, and that is about halfway done, and then we'll be going over that next year. And so Gardner is one of those streets that's kind of a main road, but it's a cut through road that's just
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's in rough shape. That's going to be a full reclamation, so it's going to be a nightmare. It's a big one. I mean, it's not a big road, but we have to deal with, shutting it off on the Hingham side and then shutting it off on the Rockland side to get that work done. So,
How we doing on the road project? Are we getting close to the end?
oh yeah, this is it. We're on the finale. Just about everything I got for money is almost completely gone. Yeah. So, and keep in mind, we got all those roads done, plus some curbing and sidewalks and, and some extra roads that weren't originally done in that first one. So, we've got quite a bit done with that money. So unless you guys want to hand over another 4 or 5 million, we could keep going.
But yeah, we're gonna take it out of Doug Sundry's account.
I wouldn't mind even berming instead of
Wait a minute, what?
granite on my sidewalks, if you can get them done.
Yeah.
All right. Any final questions for Dave about the highway, sewer, anything in general? Sports questions?
So after Forest Street, that original project, the original override is all done.
Well, it's all what we did over there is we did core samples on the road. So we did the worst part of the road, completely full reclamation from Parmenter down. And then the rest of the road, we did heavy patching and crack filling, and that's going to be a complete overlay in micro this year. And then that's it for the road project.
So
And then,
Gonna be
yeah.
done this year. All right.
Any
Yeah,
roads
that'll
get left out? Any roads get left out?
no, that's what I was saying. We did all the
Gardner
roads.
and Pine Haven.
That wasn't on there. No, so the only road left on that list is Forest, and like I said, we completed some of the roads like Linwood Terrace and some of the other ones that didn't get done on the first one, and some curbing and sidewalks. So we let the money spread out. We got 5 years out of it, so it's a lot.
Very good.
Yeah.
Great work, Dave. And I constantly
good job,
hear
Dave.
from everywhere I go is that we have the best streets during a snowstorm. So
Absolutely.
Yeah,
we appreciate that.
we have really good guys down there that take pride in the snow. So I'm
Yeah.
very
I
fortunate.
always hear Rockland roads are better than all the surrounding towns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me
It's
too.
only money, right?
Yeah, really.
Oh,
No, we do
Was
really
that
well.
meant for me?
No, I mean, even that last storm, we only brought in so many guys. and to scrape it off. And our guys worked a ton, those two. And, we didn't get all the snow until the last 3 hours of the storm for the 2 days. So we came out of that very, very well compared to most towns, from what I understand. So for a 6-inch storm.
All right, good stuff. Any final questions for Dave?
No.
Oh, good job,
All right,
Dave.
Good
Thanks,
job.
I appreciate the time, all right?
Thanks,
All right.
Dave.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Night.
You.
See you later, Dave.
Bye.
Biz or Doug, any updates from you on revenues or transfer? I thought we had a transfer request we might get this week, but it didn't seem like we got one, but.
I'm still working with the fire chief, addressing the building needs, which we had discussed last week.
Yep.
We're going to do what we can through different avenues of funding. I'll come to you if I need to. I will have a transfer for next week for about $4,000 for the registrar, because that's where they pay for their postage for the elections. And with the mail-in ballots, not all of the mail-in ballot costs were covered by the state. So we're running short in that account. So I'm going to be requesting $4,000. Right now we're over by 2,200. So with the election coming up, we are going to have additional mail-in ballots. And as we get into the 22 budget, I'm going to be moving some money around and ask for a little bit more in that budget on our final requests.
Okay. Good stuff. Anything on revenues or anything like that? Did we get any movement from the state or anything like that?
There is no movement from the state. I think Doug would be better to talk to the state aid funding. You did ask Tom Rubel about his revenues for the building permits. We did lower the budget considerably this year, which was in hindsight very prudent. We budgeted 176,000 for building permits. Right now we're at 117. He said he's down 60. We may come in close to the 176,000. It's going to be tight, but we could be close, versus the 250 that was budgeted before COVID fell apart.
John, can I share my screen for just a quick second?
Yeah, go ahead.
See if I'm able to do this. I can email this to all of you so you have a copy yourself, but we worked with the school department to send a very detailed letter to Senator Keenan and Rep. DeCoste with very clear language explaining what the problem is with the Chapter 70 formula as it applied to Rockland. So I'm just kind of skimming through it, but the main thing I wanted to show you was this letter was signed by the school committee and the Board of Selectmen, which is obviously an unusual thing to have happen. But, we've been very aggressive about lobbying the state as the budget goes through the Ways and Means to try to correct the formula. So I'll be happy to share that with you guys if you're interested in reading it.
No, it's good to see that. I was hoping we'd do something like that.
Yeah. There's been a lot of additional outreach that, we have in my office as well as the superintendent's office where we've been individually reaching out, but we thought that a joint elected official letter would be stronger. So that's why we sent that out. So I'll send that to John and he can forward it around to you.
Doug, are there other cities and towns that were similarly impacted? Would it be beneficial for us, maybe even within Plymouth County, to have like a joint, letter or, statement from all the different towns?
So I think the schools are in the process of doing that. So I think Dr. Cron is already doing that with the other schools through DESE. But, this particular effort was just a way to very quickly get something to our state rep and senator with our elected officials.
Yeah. I think Aberdeen sent their own letter too.
Yeah, now is our state senator Patrick, is it Patrick Kennedy? Is that his name?
Our senator is John Keenan.
Oh, John Keenan. All right. I'm thinking of somebody else. So John, is he on the committee that makes the decision on these things, that was involved with the final decision making? I mean, it's great to get somebody on your side, and he fights hard for us. But
well, I shouldn't say that. I can't say exactly what committees he's on, but you got to go through your local representatives. You know what I mean? So
they got to get up there and swing the bat for you. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll forward that to you right now.
All right, that's cool. Thank you. Any other updates on anything from revenue to, did we figure out what's going on with the library? We were gonna do something for the library, I thought, right?
That's under Doug's purview. We're working with the capital project information.
That's
where
right. You had
the
that under your
library has some
Yeah, so that's,
funding.
I'm still
administrative.
I'm still waiting to get kind of more detailed information from the library about exactly what it is they want to do. But I have that town capital projects funding, and that's the type of thing that I have that set aside for. And I think most likely with the library work in their workroom, we'll try to do some kind of combination where we'll take some of the town capital project funds, maybe some of their state aid or some of their other funding that they already have available. So we'll figure something out.
They still
I
haven't
think it's-
replaced the director over there, have they, Bev?
They have
Yeah.
Liz McNeil is the new director.
Oh, they do have a new director.
They do.
Liz
Yeah.
McNeil?
Liz
Yes.
McNeil. Yep.
Okay.
Very nice person.
I think it's also important to point out that once Doug and I arrived, we worked with Beverly to address some of her other building maintenance issues that she felt were neglected. We did what we could in FY20, the beginning of FY20, Doug, I believe. We worked hard to make sure some of her needs were addressed. And, you know, the workroom right now, we know that's out there. We know that has to be addressed. So, you know, as a team, we're working with everybody to achieve what they need.
Yeah, I think I mentioned before that if you look at the, I think it was one of the most recent library trustees meetings, you know, I participated in that Zoom meeting. I think I maybe mentioned it to Lori earlier, but we went through it all in detail, all of the stuff we've been doing over the last year and a half. So we're, you know, we're aware of it, and I think we're moving in the right direction.
I just want you to know we aren't neglecting people. They bring it up. We address it as quickly as we can financially and in other ways.
All right, yeah, I know the library over there, I was gonna say the parking lot is still I know that originally they were gonna do some, you know, fix up, do some quick repair on it or a nice, you know, repave it or whatever it is, and then it turned into a big thing.
Yeah, so that, you know, there was a number of different grants and appropriations set aside for that during the change in administration here, things just sort of languished. But, you know, kudos to Dave Taylor. We were able to pull all those different sources of funding together, the grants, the town appropriations, and he did a fantastic job. The only thing he has left to do is the striping, which he just wants to wait until it warms up in the summer. But it's, you know, and not just the fact that the parking is better, the ADA access is now dramatically improved, and it's now in compliance, both with the parking as well as the ramp up front. So it's
Yeah, it looks good. Looks good.
Dave is awesome. He's just awesome.
That's great. That's great. There's that was it was not safe before. You know what I mean? There was definitely a lot of trip and fall hazards. So, all right, great. That's good stuff. All right. Any other question? Any other thing from you guys, Doug or Biz?
I think we're anticipating most likely next week we'll have some updated numbers, but not for tonight.
Okay. And then schedule wise, we're still on schedule in terms of, you're still looking for, what is it, 17th?
Yeah, the reason why I look to my left is because that's where my calendar is in my office. So yeah, we're thinking we'll present some updated numbers to the selectmen next Tuesday, the 2nd, and then you guys Wednesday, the 3rd, and then hopefully the final budget on Tuesday, the 16th to the selectmen and Wednesday, the 17th to you guys. That's our plan.
Okay. And Biz, is there any parts of the budget that we can start voting on that would make sense to vote on now? Kind of just
once we present to the Board of Selectmen, and you have what we would be considering our final budget next week, that is up to you. I would consider starting the voting on the 10th, because you don't have anything scheduled that night.
Right.
That will give you time to take a look at it. If you get it next week, you'll have a week to look at the finalized budgets and start going. That's my recommendation. Doug, do you have anything else?
No, I agree.
Okay. And then you'll have a chance to look at it and you'll see the modifications we needed to make and why we needed to make them.
John, is that the 10th? Is that the night the capital planning is going to be before the finance committee?
Capital planning we were scheduling for the 10th, correct?
Okay. That's what I told Rich.
Okay.
And we were keeping the 10th open for any last minute like presentations from a department head as well.
Right, because next week we got library, board of health, school, and the CPA and historical, and that's it. We're done.
John, did you contact historical?
I did
Did you
not contact historical, no.
Okay, I have no clue who's on historical. I think when I sent out the schedules, I let you know, I don't know who they are, and you would have to contact them
Jim
directly.
Paul? No.
so-
It used to be Jim Paul.
Yeah,
he
electrical too.
He would usually come to the meeting, but
Their budget's small anyway, isn't it? Something
It's
like
$400.
Yeah,
the point
never
is that
come down until last year was their first year.
yeah, no, I think that I used to we would invite them along with CPA now that we have this funding in there, because there's usually if there was a historical element to what was being proposed, it was usually being proposed by Jim. So the two of them kind of go hand in hand, you know what I mean? So that's the only reason why we would invite him. He also, one year he had a request for some money for a website or something like that we found a different way. But in any case, that would be something to, when you're talking, Bobby, to Derek or to Peter, we're on the CPA, just throw it out to them and say, or, if you have the number for Jim Paul, give him a call and just say if he wants.
I got his number. I'll give him a call tomorrow.
I guess
have
they've
anything
been
in
in
his
touch
budget,
with him.
but he always provides some good, framework for why something is historical and what it means to the town and that kind of thing, which is helpful. So we'll probably tee those guys up first. We'll do library, and then we'll do board of health and then schools. Schools will take a little bit longer time. I'll probably reach out to Dr. Cron and ask him if he wants to join, maybe around 8 p.m. So we'll take care of all the other departments ahead of time and then give him the balance of the meeting to go over the schools.
Because when I talked to him, to Dr. Cron, he was set up for 7 o'clock. So if you're going to change that, we'll have to let him know.
I mean, if we want to lead off with him, but I just, some of these department heads will be, they may have 10, 15 minutes to give us, and they'll be on the phone for an hour waiting for us to go through the school. So maybe ask Dr. Cron if he can bump his team to 7:30, and we'll try and run through the other three departments between 7:30, 7:40, and then schools can jump in. How about that?
Okay.
That was good.
Okay.
You may not get through Board of Health that quickly. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean,
just because they got some issues. I mean, there's just stuff going on that's in their purview.
Right. Yeah, we'll do the best we can. If schools have to wait till 7:45, at least they won't be on the phone for 45 minutes waiting for these other departments to go through their stuff.
Financially, so that we'll be meeting, Doug and I will be meeting with the Board of Health on the 9th. We're on their agenda on the 9th, which is the night before they meet with you.
Well, they're going to meet with us on the 3rd.
Oh, the 3rd? Why does I think it was the 9th? Okay. I'm sorry?
Can you forward me information so I can jump into that meeting? I might be interested in attending.
I don't have any Zoom information as of yet.
When you get it?
Yep. And I will ask Delhi to invite you because it's their meeting. I really can't invite you to their meeting. Although it's a public meeting, it will need to come through the commissioners.
I didn't see the last school department meeting, school board meeting, but did they vote to go back into live meetings instead of Zoom?
They're keeping it at Zoom for the time being, and they're going to address it as time goes on, is what I saw in the meeting. I don't know if anyone has any other information
Last
on
time
that.
I saw it, they tabled it because, I don't know why, because they just couldn't come to an agreement.
As of now, it's tabled for Zoom. I think they'll be revisiting that the next meeting, so.
Okay. All right, so March 3rd, again, it'll be schools, Board of Health, CPA, historical. We'll try and tee up, we'll ask schools to join around 7:30. And And they can, they may catch the tail end of like Board of Health presenting. Not a bad idea to have them on together too. Because there's always questions. Of course, the schools and the Board of Health have been closer friends than probably ever this year. So I'm sure they got a lot going on together.
John, library's supposed to come down too.
Yeah, library too. Thanks, Bobby. I have that in my notes and I just didn't read it. So, okay. All right. With that, anything else on the department meetings? Anything that people have to share with any liaison meetings? If you've had your liaison meetings with any of these departments that are coming up, Lori, I think you had maybe talked to library.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Anything to share on that end, or?
They're looking to hire a full-time employee because they had several part-time employees that get trained very well and then go to other library systems to get full-time jobs. So I don't know if there's any wiggle room for that in the budget.
Yeah, I mean,
not at this time. There's no wiggle room. It's not something that we were aware of. For the future, we can discuss it.
Yeah.
And, I don't know how the library will be. It's not my position, but how will they be shaping up? They're coming to full opening and things like that because they aren't fully staffed yet or fully open. So that's under Doug. But we didn't know. And so at this point in time, we can't add it to the budget.
Right. I didn't know either. So.
Well, that's what we want to have, these open discussions, which is great. Joe, anything on Board of Health there? Have you met with them or no?
I did meet with Deli, and I'm guessing, Bill, you might know, if not just as much as I do, if not more, where your wife is now a commissioner on the Board of Health. Some of the biggest things were that the refuse collection went up from like $1,116,000 to $1,184,000. I mean, that's just due to extra tonnage, everybody being home and working from home during COVID. I mean, we pay for the tonnage as well, and it's just a lot more collections. And same with up at the bulk pickup is up. Well, not much. It's up $4,000. But as Deli was telling me too, that the disposal fee went from $390 to $414. So that's $24,000 went up. The same thing. But Deli tells me that, I mean, she's using some of her revolving funds to offset that as well. I don't know if you have any put, Bill.
No, nothing other than the big potential increase in the quarterly fee that's being discussed as a result of that.
The quarterly fee on what?
On trash.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's the contract's up in June, but Deli gave me the impression, even though we're putting out bids, she's going to request bids. She doesn't feel it's the right time to switch over and change this time. But I mean, if we get a bid that's substantially a lot less than what we're currently paying, then we got to really take a close look at it, of course. But she gave me the impression she's not inclined to, I mean, she'll review bids, but not inclined to change disposal companies this year or upcoming fiscal year.
Yeah, they're really feeling overwhelmed by COVID and the tracking and the phone calls and everything else they're doing. So, yeah, their inclination is not to do anything, but I think they've got to go through the process earnestly and make the decision that's best for the town and figure out how to implement that if it's a change.
Okay. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
All right, and then I think Julie, you were working with the schools. Was there anything significant out of the articles that we're aware of that Biz reviewed last night or last week? Excuse me.
No, the only thing he was alarmed about was the Chapter 70 money in the budget. And when I talked to him, I know that changes almost daily.
Okay.
And like I said, we had set up the time for 7, but I'll call him and change it to 7:30 to 7:45.
Okay. All right, that's good. I appreciate the input. Julie, did we have any meeting notes to go review?
I do not have them ready.
No problem.
I've been
All right.
feeling
Any
tired.
open
You're
items?
pretty up to date anyway, Julie.
What?
I said you're pretty up to date anyway.
Yeah, I just have last week's.
That's what I thought, yeah. I'm getting text telling me that you submitted them up. Capital planning and finance are pretty much up to date, submitting them to the town.
All right, any final questions or anything any people wanted to bring up for tonight?
No.
Nope.
Nothing. I will entertain a meeting. Well, so we've already gone over the review for next week. Next week is going to be March 3rd. I believe that's correct. Doesn't seem right, but it is because it's 28 days in February. So there you go. All right, so it is going to be March 3rd, 7 o'clock. Just as a reminder, we are going to use the same invite that we've been using to jump on these calls. The agenda obviously will just reflect the different departments that are coming, and then the transfer that Biz mentioned. By the time, if I have something in hand by Friday, I'll have that on the agenda. Otherwise, we'll cover that under the kind of open items that we have. So that's that. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Okay, Bill, a second.
I'll second.
Gotta give it Lori this time. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.